Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka.
It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. We are an anime podcast where every 2 weeks we come together, we discuss an anime that we've recently watched, like we're a book club, and we turn our discussion over to our listeners so they can finish it, make it better, because we are just three Bakas. That is the format of the show. We are watching, or have watched, and are discussing Trigun Stampede. Some caveats to get out of the way. We will not be comparing it to Trigun, because we're going to do that in a mini-sode in next week's episode. So we are judging this solely on its own merit as best we can. There will be spoilers in the spoiler section for regular Trigun and Trigun Stampede. Trigun Stampede spoils a lot of regular Trigun, so just be ready for that. And with that out of the way, I think it's time to introduce my co-hosts. First off, we have the Snake Eater to my Metal Gear Solid. It's Jeremy. How you doing? And what anime would you like to pick?
Well, I mean, how could I not? I want to pick Trigun, which is a really cool anime about a blonde-haired cowboy, Vash the Stampede, warrior of peace and justice. And it's really funny and has some great drama in it.
Cool. We also have the Crisis Core to my Final Fantasy VII. It's Jason.
I really wish it was like Dino Crisis to your. I love Dino Crisis. Anyways,
and Jason, what anime do you pick?
This really reminds me of Trigun. It's a great adventure of a guy that just doesn't want to kill. He wants to bring everyone together in a Western style anime in space. It's a really good time.
Thank you. And my name is Troy. My pick, probably no one's heard of this. It's called Trigun. It's about a guy in like a desert land. He's a gunfighter, but he doesn't like to kill, and then just having to deal with all these crazy, wacky adventures. One of my favorite anime ever.
Dude, I love that one. That's a good anime.
Oh, you have seen it. Good.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Did you guys want to do real picks, or we good?
Well, Ajin.
God dang it.
You son of a... Actually...
it applies. It's about death, right?
Anyways, mine is Trinity Blood. We went back and watched that, I believe, right?
Yeah, that was one of our retro picks.
It did not stand up to the test of time, but I remember loving it when I first watched it.
Yeah.
But it reminds me a lot of
Trigun.
What?
It steals a lot from Trigun.
No, but okay. So Jason's talking about how much he loves Trinity Blood, but I just listened to our Trigun episode. He gave Trigun first half a 3.
Oh, what does he know?
While he's talking about how great Trinity Blood is, and I just need to have that framework set up for the audience.
Whoa! Let's go. Let's back this up a little bit as far as praising. I said it did not stand the test of time. In fact, if we go back to that episode, I'm sure you'll find I didn't give that a great score either.
It's hard to listen to us for 2 hours. I just did the one. Mine is going to be Beastars, made by the same studio, also the CG animation, and I love my wolf rabbit romance murder mystery comedy. Like, it's a weird anime. It's hard to sell if people give you looks, but I thoroughly dig it. So, which I even got it on this podcast once, and that was a feat in itself.
Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, we are here to talk about Trigun Stampede, and like I said, we are going to really minimalize how much we're comparing it to original Trigun. We're just going to try to view this as its own standalone anime. And then next week, we're going to fight about
Yeah, we are.
original Trigun versus Trigun Stampede. So if you're here for that, you got to wait one more week. Even though I'm sure it's going to leak through. It's almost impossible to separate the characters, but we're going to do our best.
Yep.
So we're going to start with you, Jason. Some non-spoiler review of Trigun Stampede. What did you think?
Well, like you just mentioned, the animation's gorgeous. I really, really liked it. I think it's like a step or two below Chainsaw Man. I mean, it's definitely not Chainsaw Man as far as animation, but I really found the villain compelling. I found the story more okay, not comparing. I found the story very
Take a drink.
Yeah.
I found the story compelling, and I found the characters were interesting to watch. I liked the moral quandaries that the anime presents, and the adventure was fun. So yeah, I enjoyed myself.
I just want to say, if you're already having trouble not comparing,
Oof.
I'm so screwed.
Yeah,
I know.
All right, Jeremy, what did you think of Trigun Stampede?
I think the word that I can probably summarize it best, my opinion at least, is just generic. It was all right. The art was great, like you said. Although I did find that I wasn't a fan of some of the character designs early on. Later, they were okay. They kind of grew on me, but initially just didn't really like them. And as far as like character development and moral quandaries, there was some there. They tried, but it just didn't land with me as well. So yeah, it's not my favorite.
Okay, and for me, I think in the end, I came out on the positive side. I think I enjoyed my experience. I did have a hard time getting to it. A lot of that has to do with original Trigun, and it's like a monkey on my back that's forcing me to think about it. I did at one point come up with like a mental exercise to break the two. I told myself that it's a prequel or a sequel. Like, just think of it in that way. This is Vash's son. And that helped, because then I was able to say, okay, it's a different character. And that's really, you do need to do that. So the characters I enjoyed. I did find them a bit on the simple side. The animation is amazing. I called out Beastars, but I remember when we watched Land of the Lustrous, how blown away we were by that. So we've been a fan of Studio Orange's animation for a while. And it did some very cool things, especially with the villains. I very much echo what Jason said about the villains. I enjoyed the villains of this, but since they're not featured heavily in the beginning, it's a little dry. Well, I guess they are featured in the. We'll get there. When the villains are around, the show's better. When they're not, it's not as good. Do I recommend it? My daughter really liked it. She's never seen Trigun. So yes.
So there's a specific demographic.
Yep.
Could be recommended too.
That's exactly what I'm going for. All right. Opening and closing. What did you guys think?
I really liked the opening. The visuals were. It felt like I was slipping into something cool, like not quite a jazz club, but just it felt. The music was good, and the visuals kind of gave this feeling of not decay, but like the passage, like the sands of time, if you will, is what kind of jumped out at me.
Yeah.
The outro was okay. I could take it or leave it. I skipped it most of the time. I think I watched it once, and then I was just like, okay.
Yeah, I would echo that. Absolutely loved the OP's sound. Fantastic job. It has like this reverb and echo that makes it's like fluid, even though you're getting visuals of sand. So it's really cool. I really liked the OP a lot. Visuals, as far as like what was being displayed, what the characters were doing, it was fine. It seemed like a showcase, and I got to admit, I didn't pay meticulous attention to those visuals, so maybe there was interesting things happening that I just didn't catch. But as far as the outro goes, yeah, It was okay, but nothing particularly special to me.
Yeah, I don't have anything new to add. I really like the intro. The song, even just the opening notes. Just I was instantly hooked. Like, oh yeah, oh this is cool. What's going on? Whereas the ending, even though I had it on every time, I barely remember it. Just it doesn't stick out very much and wasn't very memorable.
And that's the last time we'll all agree.
All right. So before we go to official spoiler section, our next anime is actually going to be a community pick, a request that we've gotten a while, and we had to take care of a lot of different anime between now and then when we were getting these requests. But Bocchi the Rock, we are going to finally watch it. This is one that's not quite in our wheelhouse again.
Mm-hmm.
Those tend to get us our better views and better, more interesting episodes. So that'll be fine.
It always gives us interesting things to talk about too.
Yes.
Like,
100%.
But yeah, this was highly recommended and requested, so we are going to do a community pick and watch Bocchi the Rock. Now on to spoilers. Again, there will be spoilers for Trigun Stampede and original Trigun in this, just by the nature of the story of Trigun Stampede, but also just by the nature of us. So be aware of that if you haven't. It'd be weird if you watch Trigun Stampede and we're like, but I don't want spoilers for Trigun. I can't. That's a weird situation you're in. You need to check yourself. All right, spoiler warning has been dropped. Jason, you did such a good job in the original Trigun episode describing the world. Can you do it for us again? Except for this time, you know what's going on. Last time you didn't have the context and you described it as best you could, and you did really good. So I want you now to tell everyone what this world is.
Okay. So it's a desert planet. They've got 5 moons, I believe. And what it looks like is a bunch of desperate towns that have what look like lost technology as part of their infrastructure to keep them running per town. It's very Wild West, so you have a lot of bandits, and you also have just scum and villainy, but then you've got other places that are a bit more modern, like our day modern cities, where you've got things like insurance companies and reporters. So it's where the story is taking place, though, is very Wild West. So,
with a good infusion of sci-fi mixed in.
Yeah.
So, Serenity fans.
Yeah.
For you. All right. So we start Trigun Stampede with a flashback that was a major reveal in original Trigun, which is a spaceship flying through space, and we meet Vash as a child, and he's saying hello to all the cryogenically frozen humans that are aboard his spaceship, which are called seeds, because Earth has run out of resources, so they're moving large volumes of the population to a new home planet. And then we see the ship exploding, and his adoptive mother Rin and his twin brother Knives, and they get sent into a escape pod and sent to Earth.
What did you call his adoptive mother?
It's Rem. I wrote Rin. It's Rem.
Yeah, it's Rem.
Okay.
Fast girl.
Yep. Just ask Vash.
And this one, the character is actually Nye and changes his name to A Million Knives.
Mm-hmm. That's weird.
And then someone calls him 100 Spoons, and I laugh very hard.
Okay, so is his name Nye, or is his name Knives, and they call him Nye as a nickname?
No, his name is Nye, K-N-I.
Okay, and then he
changes it to Knives
because
he likes to make knives. And then
it was never clear in the sub.
Yeah, he crafts them.
Yeah, he does.
That's his pastime.
From himself.
Yeah, and yes, Jeremy, to answer your question, at one point the character Roberto goes, "I don't give a damn about 100 spoons."
Yes, that was hilarious.
Okay, that's funny, but that I don't recall seeing anything like that in the sub. So,
All right. So Vash, this is our main character.
I'm sorry. I have a quick question. You said that there was an explosion in the ship. We actually saw a close up of like Rem and the boys getting in the ship. That explosion happened as they were leaving. What happened to Rem? Isn't that like instant combustion? She instantly died, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because later they say that she had time to correct the trajectory of the ships.
I guess it is.
And I was confused because that means she did it before she put the boys in this escape craft, or she wasn't standing there when the fireball happened, which we clearly saw in the first few moments.
Quick question for you. Is it possible at this point in the anime you were being very nitpicky?
Hey, I'm only as nitpicky as I ever am.
So yes, the answer is yes.
I mean, I think it's an important plot point. I mean, it's whether or not all the people on Gunsmoke are alive or No Man's Land.
Yeah, depending on which anime you're watching.
Right. Yes. Oops.
Yeah, it's No Man's Land in this one.
Yep.
Okay.
So anyways, it's just a little aside where I was confused.
Super awesome. Let's talk about Vash the Stampede. We only see him in child form, but he's our main character. Besides having just the worst of haircuts, what did you, as a child, what did you guys think of Vash?
I like Vash. I thought he's got this semi-complex undertone behind his niceness. Like he's always trying to be nice to people and always trying to see the good in people, even when they've got a gun to his forehead. And that kind of character is tough to write, in my opinion, or at least make it believable. And I think his push to make amends for what he feels is his fault really drives that character development forward for him. So I was along for the ride with Vash.
I've got to say that the first introduction to him, which I kind of consider to be that sequence where he's shooting down all the cluster missiles up there. That's where we first really get to see him in action. And that soured me on him for a while because he just ran around screaming for bullets and like weeping and yelling and screaming at everybody for bullets. And I was like, this is pathetic. This character is pathetic. And so then when he gets the bullet and he shoots all of them down with one bullet, that was pretty crazy too. But that's whole nother issue. Anyways, it soured me on him a little bit. And shortly after that, there was a conversation where one of the other characters says to him, you can't cry your way out of this. And he had started to cry, and then he just stops and he looks up at him. So that means that his crying was manipulation, as if he was a little kid, which it makes it confusing. It means that he doesn't really understand humans, or he does understand some humans, but thinks that this applies to all humans. Like this form of manipulation would work on all of them, or he's sincere, in which case he's psychotic because he has these breaks where he just screams and cries at a situation because people won't do what he needs them to do in the moment instead of finding another solution. Right? I found him to be unlikable at the beginning. Now, later on, I found him to be a little bit better. Like Jason said, there was a little more nuance that showed up and a little more interesting consistency. But it still, to me, didn't seem like he was necessarily clear with his own ethics, as far as what he would allow, what he wouldn't allow, and where he stood in the matter of life and death and taking lives and things like that. It was still very foggy, I guess I could say. It's probably the best I can put it.
You're like a ballet dancer, just not landing on that spot. I'm doing awesome.
I am trying so hard. And that's my opinion of this Vash.
Okay.
Nicely done.
That was a
Nicely
lot, man.
Oof.
So in that opening scene, we see him saying hello to everyone, and I really enjoyed this character as like someone who just loves humanity. And then they bring in the question of like, do you love humanity, or do you just feel really, really guilty about the role you played in their damnation? I wish they had explored that more. He's a little simple, but I found him as a prototype version of a character.
And the dance begins.
I don't mean the specific character. I just
Is
feel
there
like
any particular character?
he's very much a starting point for someone, which I think is kind of for anyone. Like the character is very much in the early phases. We're watching a caterpillar when we want to watch a butterfly. That's the best I could do.
This is gonna go great.
Drink. All right. We also need to talk about Knives because he was also in this intro scene. It's as good a place as any. So our main villain and twin brother of Vash is Knives. Now, again, this was a major reveal in original Trigun, but in this one, from the gate, hey, you already know. Here's this villain. What did you guys think of Knives?
I absolutely. This is a character that's easy to hate, at the same time easy to just like philosophically agree. His actions are obviously evil, but his motivations are very well thought out and explained throughout the anime. This is a being who sees his people being enslaved and abused by humans. And so the way he goes about attempting to save everybody is obviously a little overboard. But because of those motivations and because of him desperately wanting his brother to join him, it's really interesting to watch, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, he is vastly my favorite character in this.
I actually really liked this character, but I do have some confusion as to whether or not there was an intended extra level of complexity with him, or whether it was bad writing, because there is this sense that, like you said, Jason, he wants his brother to be with him, but in the end result, we see that he really doesn't care if his brother's there. He wants his brother's power so that he can achieve a certain goal, which winds up actually being creating a bunch of clones of himself.
Forcibly impregnating the very people he's trying to.
Right. So
I think
doesn't
it kind of turned into that. I'm not sure if it was initially that, but
yeah. Well, and that's where I'm wondering, like, if there's genuinely like a level of complexity there, which if so, I think all the pieces are there, and I'm still trying to work together how they're connected to see an elegant connection. But I just haven't quite found that. But I think that's what maybe they were going for. It just maybe was missing a couple little beats, couple of conversations or something to handle that segue from one thing to the other a little more gracefully. Because to me, it just kind of comes off more as a power grab veiled in love for his brother than necessarily a transition from one to the other. But either way, it makes for an interesting character, certainly a more interesting character than the lead protagonist and most of the other characters in this anime.
How dare you?
I do think the brother thing is valid, because I think we also have to remember with their species, I think there's an internal thing going on. I think he's with Vash internally while also physically using his power, but now has gotten where they're united, mental, spiritual, whatever these plants are, wherever Vash was in those. And he's clearly in a mindscape or kind of illusion type thing. And I do think Knives is actually with him there and is happy, and would have been happy to be like, yeah, me and my brother's mind are in this place together, so we're together. Yeah, I've turned his body into a battery, whatever, but I'm with my brother again.
So, I mean, that begs the question, if you delete all of a person's memories so that they only remember you doing all the good things, and then you put them in that reality, do you really love that person?
For a sociopath, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
I do think it's very much a selfish love. Like, I have the Vash that I wanted now that I've cut him off from everything he actually is. Yeah, it's messed
It's
up
not
and
him anymore.
villainous. Right.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
but that's what I liked about Knives. I like I said, I think the villains are more interesting in this, and I did find him fascinating as well.
Yeah.
Guys, if you just don't talk about them very long, it's way easier.
I know.
All right. So we now, I think we will eventually find out it's been 150 years since the crash.
Yeah.
Right.
And we see a car driving through the desert, and this is being driven by two reporters, a newbie named Meryl, and her veteran partner, Roberto De Niro. Roberto De Niro, yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway, we need to talk about them. Meryl Strife. What do you guys think of her?
I liked her. She's obviously a very young, new reporter, and so she's really following her heart in this one. She's definitely on the spunkier side, which ends up getting her into trouble. But I liked how it went from, hey, I'm following Vash because I'm a reporter, to I don't want to see him die. I want to see this story through, kind of thing. Yeah, so I enjoyed her as a character.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with Meryl.
Dance, Jeremy, dance.
Yes, I know. There's so many things. Yeah, there's so many things I want to say, but they're all comparison, and so I'm holding them back. But as a newbie character, she's fine. Meryl's fine.
She's fine.
Dance. I think she serves a good purpose as a point of view character for the audience. Someone who has to have things explained to them so that we can get exposition given to us. And she's spunky and fiery and optimistic. And she's fine.
Which are all things I don't associate with Meryl, but yes, she's fine.
She's fine.
Drink.
Yep.
So, but in next week, I'll talk about how Roberto has to do with that. But now let's just talk about Roberto himself. This one should be easier, guys. He's an original character. Jason,
I hate this character. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Jeremy's going first, I guess.
Yeah, I'm gonna go first on this one. I hate this character. He's basically fulfilling the role of the jaded old man who has nothing to contribute except these constant cynical, pessimistic responses and remarks about everything. Nobody wants to hear your mumbling and murmuring in the background exposition garbage, because that's how we're going to tell everything about this world, is through Robert De Niro giving us grumbly old man speech. I don't like him.
Huh. Couldn't tell. I thought he was fine. I did like, there were a lot of, you're right, Jeremy, in that he does end up doing a lot of expedition dump, and he doesn't seem to serve much other purpose besides being Meryl's tutor, which doesn't work out well because he doesn't seem to teach her anything.
No.
But I did like he was this kind of anchor of reasonability. Like, why are you doing that? Or this guy is obviously a bad dude. Why are you trusting him? I did like that about him. Oh,
I don't know if I can do it on this one. I might on the original character. I might have to make a comparison and not hold it in for a week. Guys, as a character, he's fine. Like he is mostly an exposition dump. He's there to tell us how Vash is feeling. He's like, "Oh, I bet you're feeling this way," and you know, he also is a catalyst for Meryl to go from caterpillar to butterfly. Yeah, the Meryl is not the Meryl you know, but I honestly felt by the end of this anime, oh, Meryl is the Meryl I know. This is how she got that way, and it's thanks to Roberto, because she's optimistic, he's super cynical, and in the end, that cynicism has passed on, along with her weapon of choice.
Yeah, the weapon. That was, yeah.
And so I felt like I was good with him by the end. During the anime, I was mostly like, as a guy who's like, I love Trigun, I'm trying to make a character, but Roberto served a story purpose that I felt other characters could have used. So I'm mostly okay with Roberto, and he had the line 100 spoons. He dies shortly afterwards.
I did not get that line in the sub, so I could see that improving it. But one problem that I still have with him is that I want to know, give me a little more backstory on this character. He knows so much. He is so relevant.
It seemed like he
to everything,
something, right?
Yeah, I kept waiting for him to secretly be involved somehow. And the fact that he wasn't, and that in the end, he really is just a no-name character that does not, like, he doesn't play into the bigger picture at all, was really disappointing. But yeah, I mean, I can see your point, though. That's just, I didn't realize that that's where we were in the timeline. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Timeline for what, Jeremy?
It's a secret. We'll talk about it next week.
All right. So our characters end up meeting. So these two reporters are looking for Vash the Stampede. I didn't write down what his reward is at this point. I didn't even realize it wasn't the right reward.
It's $6 million double dollars.
It hadn't been kicked up to 60.
Is it 60
it's
million or 6 billion?
Well, it gets bumped up to 60 million.
Okay. All right. So they're looking to write a story about Vash the Stampede. They come across a random stranger in the desert who happens to be Vash the Stampede. And while he's like tied up and left for dead, they free him. These cops come by who are looking for him, and they lie. They're like, "Oh, he went that way." And then Meryl captures him and is like, "You're giving me my exclusive." And they head to a town called Genora Rock, where the town is super happy to have Vash back because he is a plant engineer, or he can help fix the plants. And so they go take a look at the plant together. It's very sick, and then those cops show up and they arrest Vash, and Roberto De Niro convinces them to do a duel instead, or he'll write nasty things about them. And so the head cop has this duel with Vash where he pulls out a rocket launcher and fires a carpet missile. What are they called? Yeah, carpet missiles?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Cluster missile.
Cluster missiles, yeah, up into the air to fall down on them, blowing up part of the town. And this is...
and he's like laughing maniacally as he does this. I sent a screenshot to you guys because the guy's got, it's like from a backwards 3/4 angle, and his tongue is like flapping. It is like the caricature maniac, egomaniacal bad guy laughter. It is so over the top.
So Jeremy complained about how crazy this character is, and I was like, it's a one-off character, who cares?
No, it's
but
not.
Then he ends up not being a one-off character, and he's like talking with other guys who are super upset about what happened in this town that will happen later. And I'm like, you carpet bombed it. Like, you don't get to be upset about the people of Genora. You were
exactly.
So Jeremy ended up being very right on this one.
Yeah, this guy's insane. and it makes no sense.
Okay. Vash goes to shoot down the missiles, but he's out of bullets. So then he has to beg for a bullet. The bartender who hired him has one, gives it to Meryl. Meryl throws it to Vash.
And the guy shoots it. He has that good at aim. The guy shoots the bullet out of the air right above Vash. I mean, yeah, this is an anime. I shouldn't be criticizing that, but I didn't realize the power scaling this anime was going to do.
Right.
I was expecting something a little bit more grounded where the characters would have good aim, but not godly aim. You know?
I remember you complaining about this when we first saw the
I sent the YouTube video. This,
that YouTube trailer.
Mhm.
Or video.
Episode first come out. Crunchyroll released this scene.
Thinking it was a good scene.
So I like the scene because not for the physics of it,
Right.
but it feels to me like Orange is saying, look what we can do, and just animating the heck out of the scene. And it is very pretty, which is why like the bullets flipping and bouncing off the ground and Vash is catching him. And then the cops running up to him and like trying to shoot him point blank, and he's dodging at
that was cool looking.
Yeah, so it's all very impressive visually, but I get what you're saying. Story wise, it's insane. I don't. So this is something we get into. Your big complaint is, wow, this guy's so powerful, so fast, and I'm like, maybe that's in the comparison. Maybe we should save that for next week.
Probably a good idea.
Write on our Twitter if you want us to save that for next week.
That's debated.
If you vote yes, you're gonna win.
Oh my god.
Now I gotta set up a vote. Let's give myself work.
Nicely done.
Yep.
No one to blame but yourself.
Yeah. All right. Vash throws a rock in the air, shoots the rock. And I actually was like, if one missile goes off, maybe that would set off the whole missiles. Maybe Jeremy's just, didn't see this right. And no, it's Pinball Wizard, and everything's bouncing off, and all the missiles blow up together.
You literally see the bullet.
Yep. Yeah. So
Yeah.
he saves the day, and then they're like, "Hey, you're a good shot." He's like, "I'm just lucky, I guess." And then they're like, "You're scared of the plant turning red," and he's like, "Have you guys heard of my evil twin brother Knives?"
God, yes, this was killing me. Oh, and who says it? Roberto. Roberto, you're so observant. Thank you, Roberto. No, tell us about Knives. Who is this?
So Vash does. He tells the story of his evil twin brother. He must not tell them about the spaceship stuff, though, right?
Doesn't it go through a series of flashbacks?
We see a flashback, yeah.
Because I was assuming that when it went through that series of flashbacks, that was just saving us his explanation, showing that this is all the stuff he explained.
But they don't know about the spaceships later. They find out about those later when they find.
Yeah.
Did they not know about spaceships, or did they not know that there was still an
Yes.
operable one?
Spacefaring thing seems to be new to at least Meryl, right?
That's a question I have, and this is even for regular Trigun. I always thought Trigun took place over 500 years, but it's 150 years. It's
like a generation and a half.
Yeah, 2-3 generations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not much. You would think they'd be like, "Hey, remember we came here in spaceships?"
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. Although, given a harsh enough environment, it might actually wind up. They could have had reduced lifespan, so it could have been 4 or 5 generations.
True, and not like there's
Maybe.
an internet to keep all history. But
That's
there is journalists, so there's print type.
Well, and this is an issue I have just in general with this is not even just this anime specific. It's just the entire setting. When you have a post-apocalyptic society like this, and it's only post-apocalyptic because they're on a planet that hasn't been colonized yet,
Right.
but they have access to ships, like crashed vessels, even if everything is operating on this super technology, super tech source, right? That doesn't mean that regular wind, we saw windmills. It doesn't mean that regular wind, regular water, even, I mean, if you've played Oxygen Not Included, you can create human Mouse wheels, right? There's ways. People are ingenious, and
Right.
they're going to come up with some kind of way to purify water, way to create water. And when you
Right.
have access to these crashed ships, you have an abundant resource right there. You probably have some factories that may have survived crashes because these ships have to build things to repair themselves.
Right.
So, they would have the ability to produce things. It seemed like, it always seems like in a setting like this, there has to be some kind of restriction for the conceit of the story to take place that technologically bugs the heck out of me. So I kind of view it the same way.
It reminds me of like Dr. Stone, like just some basic knowledge, and you could do so
Mhm.
much with how far human knowledge has come. And they're space
Yeah.
sharing, species now, so they would have even more of like, guys, if we put these two elements together, we can do
Mhm.
like 10 different things that would make our lives easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've got that floating ship that we learn about later, which is a very important part of the plot of Trigun in general. And this floating ship has functioning grav drives.
Right, because it stays above the clouds to
Right.
conceal them,
Yeah.
which is odd because it's a desert planet. So where are the clouds coming from? Anyways, we're not comparing.
Yeah. But they also have functioning electronics to be able to have, like, they've got all their little tablets and they've got their data stuff. They're writing code. They're doing all that, which means they probably have databases with all kinds of information about history. Surely their ship didn't come to this planet as part of this seeds colony without records of history of mankind and technology and things like that. So I'm sure that they've got to have something that they can refer to even.
Yeah, because so there's a scene where Vash, he's going into to do controls on, I think it's the cannon, and they're just flabbergasted that, one, there was a control room for the cannon, two, that there was a cannon on it, right? And
they just thought it was the upper deck.
Don't ask, Tim. We don't open that door, Tim.
right? And then he starts manipulating the controls, and they're like in awe, and it's like, well, this isn't that far removed. Like, this is something possibly your grandfather could have seen. Like, I'm not shocked when I see the telegraph. Like, that's not a lost technology to me, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And these sea ships wouldn't have been filled with just unskilled workers. Like, if you're going to colonize a new planet, you bring maybe not everyone's a scientist, but hey, I know how to do engineering, and we didn't. But it seems like the planet's like, we're just full of bartenders and
and bug hunters.
That's
and bandits. Don't forget the bandits.
Well, gotta have the bandits.
That's all we brought with us to our new planet.
All we brought was bandits and bartenders. How'd they even get the ship off the ground?
We'll go forward.
Okay.
So at first the town's all being super nice to Vash, and then they decide, we're gonna collect the bounty, and they start chasing him through town. Meryl and Roberto are helping him. He almost gets out of town, and they catch him. But someone invited the Nebraska family to join in. Prominent characters from that we actually talked about in the original Trigun. But it's just the dad and his son this time. And so they come crashing in. So Vash runs away to help them get away from the town. But then the scientist, after not being able to catch him, goes back and holds the town hostage. They decide to steal the plant.
Also, the sun is not 14 stories tall.
So we weren't going to compare. Drink.
We're gonna kill somebody tonight.
Right? I don't know. I have a dichotomy.
Vash goes back, battles the Arkansas or Nebraska family.
Arkansas. Nebraska smash.
He convinces them, like, hey, quit fighting. Then the bridge thing they're on, the construction they're on, collapses. The the son with the rocket punch hand. He's falling, but he catches the plant to save it, and then Vash catches his grappling hook hand, and then he gets the rest of the town to help pull them up, and then they all go have drinks. And then tiny virus robots.
Yeah, they look like little virus.
Yeah, with a crystal on top
DNA.
and then the spider legs.
Yeah.
But they're bombs, and they come in and they attach to the Nebraska sun, and he runs out into the street and he blows up and he dies.
Good job, Vash.
That was my thought too, to be honest. Drink.
Yes.
Like, what the heck? All right. Yeah, so he's dead, and so they have to deal with this guy. His name is
E.G. Mine.
E.G. the Bomber.
Oh,
the
right.
Mine.
The mine.
E.G.
I thought it was mine.
Mind? I thought it was E.G. the Bomber. It doesn't matter. Ichi. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. His name is Ichi. And Vash chases him around. They chase him like out of town, and he winds up. I called it a death machine, but it's like a spinning cage of blades that he gets to drive around in.
Right?
It was very Mad Max.
Very Mad Max, yes.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, now the bombs are on all the townspeople, so Vash he chases the guy all the way up to the plant. The guy steals chases him all the way back. Meryl and Roberto tackle him, and so forces him to defuse the bombs. But then they hear the song of Knives playing, and Knives is coming. And Vash is like, everyone's got to run. Nebraska is like, I'm going to kill Ichi the Bomber because he killed my son. I have my rocket launcher. No one really listens to Vash, but then Knives shows up and he causes utter mayhem. He grows knife tentacles out of his body.
You, Japan.
Yes, basically.
Ichi goes up to him and is like, "Hey, master, I found you." And like suddenly his arms are gone, but he was tied up by the good guys, and they land on the saloon door. So it's just these two dismembered arms, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be a little more violent than the last one."
Drink.
And then like Rosa, the bartender, and her friends try to stop Knives, and he cuts a bunch of them up. Nebraska.
And it's like, it's pretty scary at this point because you don't quite see him. You just see the tentacle knives come up over the edge and like grab him and pull him down, and then blood comes up from the stairs. It's like, are we watching a horror movie? What's going on?
He wears this weird slug coat with like mirrors attached to it, little round mirrors all over it.
I noticed that
it's kind of weird looking.
Weird.
Which later like phases into more knives.
Yeah. Anyway, his buddies show up. So we see the professor. We see
a giant robot.
And a little girl. They steal the plant while Vash confronts Knives and is trying to talk him out of doing it. And Knives decimates a mountain and drops it on the town. Like literally like this tornado of blades comes out of him, puts the mountain in a blender, and then just drops the rubble on the town.
It's so cool looking.
It is.
It did. Honestly, this was where I was like, okay, I think I can do this. I've been struggling, but that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And something I haven't seen before. So and then we just see the wreckage of Genora Rock, and like one of the kids that was friends with Vash is now missing an arm. Everyone's hurt, and they tell him, "Don't ever come back here, Vash." They blame Vash for it, which we find Vash's bounty has actually been because Knives has been going around stealing plants, and since he's the twin brother, everyone's assuming it's Vash, and that's why Vash has a bounty at this point. And they do that. And he explodes. And then he wanders away.
a lot of people died.
Yep. So the
Vash.
next we see Meryl and Roberto driving Vash through the desert, and they run over a man carrying a cross. You know him, you love him. He's in the other anime.
Drink.
Nicholas D. Wolfwood is here, everybody. Not
Don't
Finn
you hear the cheering?
Wolfhard or whatever Jason calls him when he can't remember his name.
Wilford.
Wilford. famous anime character Nick Wolford. All right, what do you guys think of Nicholas D. Wolfwood?
I like this character. I find his backstory super interesting because he is one of many that end up being a part of this saving humanity attempt that every mad scientist goes through. But I'm trying to I can't save humankind in a reasonable amount of time with plants, so let's just genetically modify them to not need water. I found that to be an interesting premise for how these monstrous people are created throughout this universe, and you come to find out that Wolfwood
Nice.
ends up being one of them, and I like that he ends up being one of the least powerful on the power scale, but he also is he has some investment in the orphanage, but he doesn't seem to be was he running it, or what was his involvement with the orphanage?
Kid.
He was a kid.
Oh, he was a kid there. Okay, that's right. Yeah, because in reality he's not that old, right?
He's 12.
Exactly.
He's like a 12-year-old.
So he's also he's a bit more sinister in his conversations, but he ends up doing stuff to save them. It looks like he's going to train, but
he's more sinister than what? Compared to what, Jason?
He seems more sinister than he really is what I'm because I was about to make an example. He looks like he's going to shoot Vash, but he's really shooting the person behind them, which anyways. But yeah, so you didn't catch me there.
No drink. Take it back. Spit it out.
Get you next time, Jason. Jeremy, what you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No. Yeah, I thought he was
great.
I thought he was great.
Okay. He was interesting. I found the idea of him actually being a little kid that was put through some kind of crazy experiment to be interesting. It was also an interesting way to tie all of these villains together that we're seeing. They all seem like they're coming from these, different sources. I don't know if this had anything to do with the Nebraska family, because it seems like maybe the dad was tinkering with the son himself, and it's not this doctor. But at least these other ones, they do all seem to be related to that same source of this doctor trying to find the solution. I actually really like that the doctor is essentially trying to change the people to survive in the world versus the humans wanting to change the world to allow the people to survive in the world. That's something you see a lot in sci-fi, is those two different warring sides. And I like it whenever you get to see them compete. You get some interesting storytelling there. As far as his powers, his abilities, and his weapon go, not super clear on how the laser works on his gun.
Very clear how his gun works at all.
Because, he didn't use it until he drank his super serum and he became a temporary super soldier, and then all of a sudden he used his laser, but in a later time he used it. So I'm wondering if that sucks life energy from him or something. I don't know. It's weird.
Why not?
Maybe. He's interesting. He's very garish with his usage of the weapon, I would say. Like it's a show, man, flipping that thing around like crazy. And it actually looks
Definition
pretty
of the
cool.
word garish.
I know, fine. I knew it as soon as I said it.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
It's usually attributed more towards clothing and looking like a peacock, but the way he moved, yes. And then
Troy, it's so funny.
I honestly didn't know. I felt so stupid.
oh really? Oh,
Like
garish, flamboyant.
Yeah, I can get it from context, but I just didn't have enough context. And it's word I've heard. I wasn't sure enough to feel confident to respond. That's all.
Fair enough.
So yeah, he was all right. I think Wolfwood could probably be done better.
No, that's a drink. That's a cheat if I ever heard one.
I was about to say
Just
that felt underhanded.
I have a big problem with this character. I think his gun is cool. I don't have any issues with his personality except for I can't get past that he's 12 years old, and there's nothing in him that tells me he's 12 years old except for the story where they showed me he was 12, and I'm like, what? This whole time he's been 12, especially since he's walking around with another person who's 150 and doesn't act like that either. And I'm like, is age just a number to you?
Yes.
I guess he'd gone through traumatic experiences. That does mature you up. I get that. But, man, it just felt so random for him to be 12.
That did feel weird.
Well, it seemed like they needed a way to connect him to the orphanage.
Right. And
But
you
they
have
didn't want to
you
use
have
it a
150
different way.
years of time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You could say you grabbed him at 12 and kept him for 15 years.
That's what I initially thought had happened
Until they bring in the friend, and this
reveal.
friend is still a child. And they did say,
Yeah.
like the other kid, Rolo, they also
Aged him up.
Aged him up. They did say that. But well, doing it to Wolfwood, like I say, actually, the other character, I was like, yeah, I buy that this is a child driving around in a giant, insane man's body, and he doesn't know how to handle it. Wolfwood
And also having his emotions turned up to 90,
right,
or 150.
So that one worked for me. Like he comes home like, Mama, I'm gonna murder everybody. Like, okay, that's a kid who got forced into an adult body and a superhuman and driven insane. I get that. Wolf was just he's just too mature. It bugged me so much. Otherwise, everything I liked the character. He was fine.
Well, to be devil's advocate for a moment, like the way they portrayed him, even as a little kid, it did almost seem like the same character as the adult version of him. Like in the flashbacks, the way he walked, the way he talked, the very little that he would even say, and just the general machismo and attitude that he had.
Yeah, and I can buy that. But so here's my real big problem. We're having philosophical debates between a 150-year-old man and a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And they're holding, and he's holding his own like, I know the world. You're 12. I get you saw some stuff, but calm down.
Yeah.
I watched spaceships fall from space. You don't know what you're talking about. You can't tell me about the value of life. You're 12.
Yep.
Okay. That, you know. So yeah, they run over this man. They rush him over to a gas station. All they find is dead bodies and a young child, and then they're eaten by a giant worm. And the child runs off to chase a dragonfly, so they all go searching. Meryl gets attacked. Roberto's like, I'm pretty sure Wolfwood is the one behind controlling the giant worm. And on this planet,
thanks, Roberto.
worm means any insect or natural life form, which are mostly insects.
It seems like this is it. Well, yeah, it seems like this
the dragonflies are
sort
worms
of
too.
The Na'vi world where everything is connected, everything is like part of one life force.
Yeah, and even the spores are worms.
Yeah,
and it seems like all the bugs are actually just spores turned into new forms.
Oh, yeah, there's no plants. here. Everything is worm.
There's lots of plants here now, but there's no flora.
No
I
flora.
loved it when they
Oh,
looked at actual flowers. They're like, "This is called flora." Ah, I see what you did there. You didn't
Uh-huh.
use the other word.
Yep.
Which can be confusing that they chose
Honestly,
worms and plants as their naming conventions.
yeah. When I first watched Trigun, I genuinely thought they were talking about literal plants, like
In
these
the-
were plant.
In the
I genuinely thought they were plant people.
in the
I
Trigun
did too.
in the Trigun
Yeah.
episode we did, I remember I asked you. I was like, "Do you think Vash can't drink alcohol because of what he is?" Because I was thinking like a plant
thinking it
can't
too.
drink alcohol. So yeah, even just a year ago, I had it
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. I read the wiki and I still thought they were plants.
Yeah, hard to get past.
Yep.
All right, Vash and Wolfgang get spit out. Vash goes back in. Wolfwood follows him, even though he thinks it's stupid. And then they call out that the kid is actually the one controlling the worms, and the kid is actually Zazie the Beast. Thoughts on Zazie the Beast? And you can reveal the true nature of Zazie.
Okay, so there's a moment in the anime which I really like where Zazie gets shot at
By
but then-
Roberto.
by Roberto. I was gonna leave that for later, but whatever. And instead of this kid, what looks like a kid getting shot, it disperses into these like dragonfly things. And then Zazie says, "I take this form as a way of interacting with you. This is not who I am." And that was super cool. Like, oh, it's a hive mind of, and so I'm gonna compare. And the difference between Zazie is a third race that was originally inhabiting this planet, and I thought that was really cool that now we have this human plant race, and then now we've got these guys as well, and it made a neat dynamic. They didn't dive too deep into it, which was a little disappointing, but they did allow for it to be dove into in future, like because they left some breadcrumbs there. So
Yeah. I thought this was extremely creative, and I think it adds a lot to the general setting. Complexity-wise and where they can go with it, it makes it very intriguing. And I want to know more about this hive mind and, what its objectives are beyond survival. Because it does seem to be like it's a little bit I don't want to say, I don't know, maybe malevolent is the right term. It's a little bit malevolent, and it seems justified in some ways because, right, these are two foreign groups that have come to this world and both of them pose a threat to you. So why wouldn't you be a bit harsh with them? Of course. So it does make sense, but I also wonder about the perspective of this alien entity, like its view of life. If you have a hive mind, I always go back to Ender's Game, right? And if you have a hive mind, you see the world differently. And so I'm really curious if they're going to play with that very well, or whether it's just going to be another villain on the side that only gets like a surface facade of being this really interesting character. But they've done good so far, so I'm not saying they're going to fail, but I'm curious how they're going to do in the future.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most interesting characters in this show. Like you said, it's the extra dynamic of a third party. It's a wild card. The fact that Zazie's like, I haven't actually picked a side yet, so make your case. I love that. And pointing out, like, you came to my planet, you just show up here because you destroyed your planet. Why would I want you here? Like, what good can you do? Which is a compelling argument, and can't really find the flaw in that.
right.
So that extra dynamic was just fascinating to see. So I'm a fan of Zazie the Beast, even though up to that point I was just like, oh, cool, creepy bug kid, but it ended up being so much more.
Yep.
Wolfwood destroys the giant monster they're all in by slicing it in half with his cross laser.
With a garish move.
Just spins it. He garrisoned it very well.
He bifurcated it.
I'm joking. I know the difference in the words, okay?
Okay.
And then they eat Bug.
Yes,
but then
they
we
do.
see Wolfwood talk to Zazie and reveal that he's actually a traitor who's working for Knives.
I'm glad they didn't let that go for very long. I wouldn't have wanted to be left in the dark.
Okay. I'll talk to you next week. The next episode, we see a town that is super religious, and they pray to the wind because their town runs on windmills because they don't have a plant. We haven't really talked about plants. Plants are used by towns to produce things. They are basically matter creation machines, and some make water, some make electricity. It just depends which ones you have and what they can make for you. But most towns need them to survive, but not Windmill City, except for the wind's not blowing very much, and so everything sucks.
Yeah, we've talked about Knives and Vash being plants, and not to be confused with foliage, which they definitely cross over later on.
Yeah, they make it more confusing.
Right. These are interdimensional beings that apparently their physical forms that we see in reality are husks, and their real soul, if you will, is in another dimension. And so that's how they can produce either power or water or whatever. It's because they're pulling that energy from the other dimension. Interesting note, Knives and Vash are the only ones that are independent, so that don't need this globe to exist in our reality. I don't know if it was explained in the anime and not in the other anime, but this anime, where did they come from? Why did humans partner up with them? And
where did you come from, cutting that joke?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, those are interesting. Those are questions that I have for the show. Is like, obviously we see a spacefaring race of humans going across the galaxy in what seems to be a mutual relationship with these things providing power for their ships, or is it mutual and they're captives? Like, we don't ever get that information. So I don't know if it was explained, but that would be interesting to know.
I think I read on the wiki what they are, so I won't say here in case it is spoiler territory. But I don't think I've ever seen from the show where their like origin is or anything like that. I do like, as much as I made fun of it earlier, I do like the naming convention just because with a plant you have what you see on the surface, and then there's a whole lot going on underground, which is what they're referring to. We see them in our reality, but there's a whole part of them in this other reality they're pulling things from and bringing it to us.
One thing that was really intriguing was in that last little bit where we see their higher dimension. Knives talks as if there is a core, not we all have cores, but a core.
Yeah, the core.
And the core. Like all of these plants themselves are a hive mind as well. But when they manifest or use these husks in this world, they're kind of separated enough from the core to develop their own personalities. That's the impression I got. I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but
I hated when they said a core. Like, there's a core. I'm
right.
like, well, okay, thanks for super generic term.
Yeah.
Like, it was so good. Like, hey, there's a dimension they reach into, they pull in energy, and like, oh, cool. And there's a core. A core of what? A core of stuff that we need.
It's definitely there.
It's a ball, and if you touch it, you're the best. That was so disappointing.
Yep.
And that's
how
not
can
even
you?
comparison. It's just,
how can you say that?
well, like, it's the whole plant explanation, the backstory they give to it are fascinating. I was super into it. I even were at a point where I'm thinking like, if they die here, does that mean they're still alive over there? This is just like an appendage they're sticking out. But yeah, then generic circle in other dimension that if you touch you win. It's been done so much.
Yeah.
It's like they're being imaginative and they get to this point and they're like, I don't know. Right core. I'm tired. Let's go home. It's the weekend.
You know how long we've been writing this?
All right. Okay. Win story, guys. We also see Vash come to this town. So we end up getting two stories in two different timelines. One is about this kid, and he's sick, and he finds out he's going to be sacrificed to the windmill, and so he runs away. And Vash is sent to find him, and Vash finds him and is like, "Hey, if you ever need me, I'll save you. Don't worry about it." And he takes him home, and they're sent to the windmill. And the windmill is where the evil professor that works for knives takes them to experiment on him. Meanwhile, Vash is now returned to this town all these years later, and it's dead. Everyone's dead, and it's because the kid was released as a monster, giant Gatling gun with wind turbines as well. He was released on the town to destroy it, and he's still there, and he's trying to kill Vash, and so Vash is aware of who he is and is running from him, but also like he gets buried under rubble, and Vash goes and starts digging him out, and Wolfwood's like, what are we doing? What is going on? We need to fight this guy. To the point where they end up in this big confrontation, and Vash is being grabbed by him, is really trying, like, you gotta remember me, you gotta remember me, and Wolfwood shoots the monster in the head, and he dies.
And Vash is very upset.
Right in front of Vash.
Yeah.
The Stampede. They argue about it, and then they drive away, and the wind begins to blow, which was a nice ending. Cool. All right. Yeah, we're halfway through, guys.
So he can shoot cluster bombs with a single bullet, and he can do karate moves with his gun against knives, blocking tentacle knives. But he didn't see that laser coming.
Tentacle knives.
Tentacle knives. With this thing that's so important to him, saving lives, saving all the lives, but he couldn't find a way to like maneuver or kick the guy out of the way with his super martial arts or
Just
something.
being choked against the wall.
This is Vash. He's insanely powerful. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it.
I think you're reaching.
Well, Vash wasn't.
I think next week I'll agree with you 100%, but right now I have to say, meh.
Meh.
All right. Millie, nope, she's not here. Meryl
No. Drink.
and Roberto drop Vash and Wolfwood off at the sand steamer. And they are still arguing. And again, this is my big issue about the value of human life and stuff. But then an assassin shows up. And this is where we get Wolfwood's backstory. That he was a kid at an orphanage and had this other little kid that followed him around that he took care of named Livio. And one day the professor came and he took Wolfwood away and he experimented on him. And then Wolfwood, as now an adult man body, learned that Livio was brought in next because he's not performing as well as he's supposed to. So Livio, the kid, is brought in. So Wolfwood, is this before or after he tries to escape?
I thought it was after.
Yeah, I think it was his punishment for trying to escape. They brought in Livio. But also, yeah, so he has like a magic serum that he drinks. He breaks open a little flask and drinks, and it'll heal him from any damage and make him super strong.
Basically give him Wolverine regen for like 5 minutes.
Yep.
And Livio has it too, so they have this big gunfight while
Except Livio's seems to be like automatic. You don't even see anything get dispensed.
Well, we see
unless you think it's the mask.
Who's the gosh, we just were talking about Rollo.
Yeah, Rollo.
He gets it as well.
Yeah, we saw these little blue things that were injecting into him.
Yeah. and he healed from his gunshot wounds as well.
I didn't see any bullets pop out. That would have been nice. You know, they did that to Wolverine in the first one.
Oh yeah.
That would have been cool.
Scar tissue.
Vash keeps trying to stop Livio, and Wolfwood's like, "No, you don't get involved with this. It has nothing to do with you. Just let me kill him." And then Meryl decides to go back to the sand steamer, and they run across the Badlands gang, which is the neon-colored gang.
Oh, you're just gonna stop there?
I think this is one of the things that felt tropey. Is all of a sudden it turned into like we had an interesting story of crashed ships and these desolate towns trying to survive in the desert, and all of a sudden it turns into Mad Max. That part I wasn't a big fan of.
I did like the corridor where they were like posing, because I was wondering how are Meryl and Roberto going to do. And they were doing great, because these guys saw this as an opportunity to, you know, get their names out there, get some glamour shots, and that was really funny to me. So I was cracking up with that sequence.
So Vash deals with the Badland gang who jump on the steamer and leaves Wolfwood to fight Livio. And then he comes back. It was weird. He like runs off, saves Meryl and Roberto, and then runs back. And he's like, "Okay, I'm back. You didn't kill him. Good." He's like, you need to jog his memory. So Wolfwood uses cigarette smoke, and Livio gains is like, "Oh,
I like this,"
and shoots himself in the head. What?
Well, I didn't like that part. No. Okay. I liked that the way they triggered him, because obviously talking to him wasn't getting through, but the olfactory memory jog. I liked that.
That's cool.
Story point. But then he offed himself, and I was like, "Oh."
Yeah. But he's not gone for good, because that guy that like has this really weird power where he can make people
Legato.
Well, I mean, he said it's not nerves or anything. It's like it looks like he's controlling gravity. Yeah, that's what it does. Yeah, that guy. Did they name him? Oh man.
Not salty at all. I hear no salt.
Also, Legato has damaged the sand crawler. Nope, the steam blaster.
Wrong franchise.
Ion
steam deck. Anyway, he's made the whole ship turn, and it's heading right for the orphanage.
Dun dun dun.
And also,
he's got this horrible vendetta against Wolfwood.
Yeah.
Like, that is this sole motivation for this character, is I'm going to destroy everything Wolfwood loves because he's not a good minion.
It's also insane because Wolfwood is doing the exact mission. He's like the most important mission to Knives, which is bring Vash to me.
Right.
Protect Vash, get him safely to me so I can use him. And every other minion is like, no!
Yeah.
No way!
I won't do it.
Weird organization.
Yep. And it doesn't seem like they're trying to get a message across or prove anything. It seems like they're genuinely trying to kill Vash. Like,
right. Like, if Knives had a secondary goal of forcing Vash to kill someone, that would make sense why he kept sending minions after him.
Right.
But that's not the kind of thing that would happen in a Trigun like this.
Drink.
Yeah. I was rocking on the edge.
Leave it on the edge.
All right. He also activates the Death Star laser that's on this, because this turns out it was actually a spaceship, and so Vash, he shows them the control room, and he's like, "No, actually, the control rooms don't work. We have to go push it." He grabs it with the anchors, like these giant anchors, and he swings around and grabs them, like, "Oh, that's cool." And then but the end is him and Wolfwood just under it, pushing.
No,
pushing
I hated
really
this. I hated this so much.
And it works.
Yeah, that didn't make a lot of sense, but here we are.
Yeah. So they push it up just a few feet, and then Meryl fires the laser so that it misses the orphanage, and then the gun blows up, and then they're like, "Okay, but we still can't stop the ship, and Vash is like, I can. If you go pretend you're a little kid and turn this valve,
Yep.
burn your hands doing it. You know, this
Off
might have been
screen.
done. This might have been done by another character, but you're gonna do it now.
Yep.
And so Wolfwood does it,
What are you trying to say?
and then Vash goes and talks to the plant, and he asks the plant, "Hey, can you stop pushing the ship?" And she does, and then everyone sees that Vash is the plant.
Man, what a surprise that was.
And then Vash. Well, actually, no. We have the flashback episode, which is what happens to Vash after he leaves Knives, after they crash on the planet. He's found by this ship of scientists and one of the survivors. They're like, "Hey, you're a plant. What do you produce?" He's like, "I don't actually produce anything," which is special about Vash. Yep,
Yeah.
I'm just very humanish.
I just bring
And
everything
they
from
don't
my
trust
realm.
him. They lock him up, but eventually they find out that he can talk to the other plants and heal them because they don't do well on the conditions of the planet. So they make him a member of the team, and they give him a room. Eventually give him a coat, and he grows up with them, just traveling around, helping the plants, helping their plants. And then they find out from the black box of his ship that he was involved with the crash. And so he runs away, leaves a note. I'm going to go confront my brother Knives. I'm sorry I lied. And they decide to go after him. And then when we see Knives' ship, that all of his plants have been overused by the humans who are like, hey, they're all dying anyway. One more go. And they're like super callous about it. It's almost insane, like insane evil. Like, oh, they're all dying. Let's get some candy bars first. Like, what do you gotta produce so bad? You gotta. So Knives is like, hey, Vash, see what they did? They're so evil. And Luita, she shows up. She's the scientist who befriended Vash. She shows up, and Knives like, oh, you can kill her. Here's a random guard gun that I'm giving you.
I know. My jaw hit the desk when I saw that.
It's fine.
What?
Yeah. Oh, the gun doesn't matter. Even though it's called Trigun.
Wait.
It should be called.
It should be called One Gun.
un gun.
It shouldn't even be called One Gun. It should be called Use a Gun as a Fist.
Should be
like,
called
hit
just
people with your gun. That's what it should be called.
Handle.
Handle. Yes.
Someone's upset.
We're getting there, though.
Yes.
We're up to. Well, and there's a grappling gun in his arm.
Is it a gun, though?
No, it's not.
It's.
He's
All
Batman now.
Vash is like, no. He tackles Knives, stops him from doing a killing, and then he produces like a black hole in his arm, and everyone's like, oh, he's opened the portal to the other world, and so Knives cuts his arm off.
I saw literally two people. I assume they were the dead people, like get sucked into it.
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding?
Yeah. That was neat.
So Vash's special ability is that he can open the portal like all plants, but he can send stuff to the other side instead of just pulling stuff to their side.
Which seems to be a unique ability that no other, all other plants can only pull. So.
Mm-hmm.
Also, adult Knives wakes up and he's at home, which is the name of the ship that was taking care of him. And then Brad and Luita come in, and they're still alive, and they explain to Meryl and Roberto like everything. They're like, yeah, we were spaceships, and he's a plant, and we cryo sleep all the time, so we don't age very much. Vash is 150 years old. Also, we have a whole room full of flowers. Flora.
Yeah, there's like grass and trees in there.
And then 10 seconds later, Zazie the Beast comes and steals Roberto and Meryl off screen. We're just like, oh, it happened.
Yeah.
We get we get one picture that shows Zazie holding Meryl under her arm as she flies away.
So Vash and Wolfwood go off to save them, and then this is where Zazi's like, "Hey, I need to pick a side here soon. State your case." And then the professor comes in and he's like, "Yeah, I know about the scientists making the flowers, trying to like reshape the world so it's habitable. I'm doing my own thing. Come here, I want to show you." And Meryl's like, "All right." And Roberto's like, "When an evil scientist says I want to show you something, you say no."
He's like, "What? Do you just need me to tape a kill me sign on your back?"
Exactly.
Which is really funny because at this point I was like, I have seen a ton of death flags on Roberto. I stopped it and I told my daughter, like, he's gonna die. He's not surviving the end of the series. And he's like, no, you're gonna get killed. I'm like, no, that's not who the death flags are coming up for.
Yep.
Also, you're a journalist, man. You go where the story takes you. Evil scientist says yes, you go talk to evil scientist. So they do, and the evil scientist is like, "Yeah, I'm creating human plant hybrids. I have all these children in vats." And they're like, "Okay, well, that seems pretty evil." He's like, "I get it, seems pretty evil, but..."
So this is the prequel to Beastars. Because those look like little furry babies.
Well, one of them wakes up, and it's a little girl from like one of the first episodes that helped steal that plant, like the second episode, third episode. And she starts shooting giant nails at them that she can make in the air.
Materialize out of nowhere? Yeah.
Because she's half plant, so she can generate. And she chases...
He defines it as she has the output of a support plant. Whatever that means.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Vash and Wolfwood have reached the same city they're in, which is July. Or July, depending on where you read it. In the episode description, it's that second one. In the map, it's just the word July. Not June, like I said in the original Trigun episode. All right. Vash gets shot by a guard who's like, my mother was in Genora Rock. And he shoots Vash, and then Vash is like, "All right, you shot me, I'm good." And he just like walks away, and everyone's like,
nobody
"All right."
shoots. They're all like, "What? He's walking away."
Bye.
Yeah.
This is where Wolfwood sees his scars. Vash has very horrendous scars. He's like, "Oh, your
morality has a cost."
Morality has a cost.
Yep.
He says that.
He said it.
I really want to see those times when he saves people and then gets injured because he's saving people instead of just letting them all die.
I don't understand what you mean. No.
Anyway, they then show up and save Meryl and Roberto, but Roberto gets hit, and as he's dying in the elevator, he gives his Derringer to Meryl.
I was so shocked. Like, how could he have died here?
I know. And what an interesting, like, tiny gun for a tiny lady.
I feel like she needs like 50 more.
Yeah, like dozens.
Right? They defeat the girl. Wolfwood defeats this little girl, and then Vash is like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "No, I hate you. Leave me alone." And then Wolfwood walks him down to Knives' lair, and then Wolfwood's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go pick up my paycheck." And he does, and he leaves. Which is the deed to the orphanage? Okay.
It's like, it says that he's a pastor now.
Oh.
So I'm assuming that he like got some kind of necessary certification to be in control of the orphanage.
That from a scientist?
I know, that was so weird.
He said your contract's fulfilled.
Yeah, the word on it was pastor.
And he gave him, a piece of paper. That's right.
Huh.
I guess I just assumed it was a deed and was probably writing something. Huh. All right. Vash confronts Knives. They argue the same thing they always argue. Hey, humans aren't that bad. Oh, they're pretty bad, Vash. And then he drops Vash into a Rancor pit. He didn't see coming.
Surprise!
Somebody's watched the recent trailers.
drops him into a vat of liquid that all the plants go in, and then goes in with him naked.
Well, this is what's so weird is like he looks like he's naked, But then he's got like the seam of a bodysuit.
He has a seam.
So
he's got a bodysuit.
He's got a bodysuit on.
It looked like he had a bodysuit on.
Yeah, but he's also naked.
Are you sure it's a bodysuit? Because it has the plant skin markings.
Right, and that's what's confusing. Is like, is this just him showing all of the plant tattoos? That's not actually a bodysuit, but because I mean, he's got Barbie going on, right? Like Barbie and Ken, where he's got nothing down there.
Yeah,
but
that's honestly where I was going. Does Vash the Stampede have a peen? We need to know.
Well, we're talking about
the people need to know.
Because
then we're down to impregnate a lot of plants right now, so we need to know.
Also, it means we're down another gun.
So buy gun instead of
nice.
Yeah.
I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry.
So Knives tentacles him and starts hacking him, which is I'm gonna take over your power and overwrite you, basically remove all your memories.
Yeah.
So Vash goes into this memory world where he's seeing all his failures and he's seeing his friends and they're disappearing, but he holds on to the memory of Rem, which stops
and
the
this
download.
is where the doctor literally says, "Oh, it is a battle. The love of all mankind versus the love for a brother." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. I didn't get that, but okay."
Well, since the beginning, when they first crashed, Knives has been asking him to join him. He's been, and Knives' whole motivation this entire series has been humans are giving us the shaft and we need to do something about it, or it's our turn to take over this planet and humans don't have a place for it. And Vash, as my powerful brother and a familial blonde, I want you with me. So that's what I'm pretty sure that's what he meant by a love for a brother, is that familial love.
Except that he's overriding him because he's like, I would rather erase you and keep this shell of you that looks like you but is my programming than actually have the you that disagrees with me, the real you.
Because he knows Vash can stop him. And so he wants him to join him so bad, and because he's bad guy, that he's going to erase his memory. There's no moral high ground that he has here. And I'm not saying that justifies why he's doing it. But what I'm saying is that that's why he does it, is because he wants his brother back and he doesn't care what the cost is.
Mm-hmm. So it's not two equal good loves. It's sociopathic, maniacal, codependent, evil love.
Correct.
Versus a good love.
I thought it was Vash's love for Knives versus Vash's love for humans, not Knives' loves for Vash.
Oh no, that's not how I interpreted it at all. That's
actually that could be interpreted that way as well.
I thought he was saying like Vash is going to have to pick which one he loves more.
And that's a constant theme throughout this whole thing, is especially Wolfwood keeps telling him, you're going to have to pick a side. Like can't keep playing both sides.
I never got that at all from any of this. I never got the doctor thinking that Vash would actually, or even ever had the potential to do anything to stop Knives.
Is it possible that you are jaded?
I mean, it's definitely possible. In fact, I would say it's guaranteed.
It's 100% guaranteed.
Yes. But I guess what bugged me more than even just the statement that he made was that he was trumpeting it as if this was a grandiose culmination of some great argument, and we were now getting like the cap on it where this battle can finally take place and we're going to call it out because we built it up so well. And I did not see the buildup. I mean, at most, looking back from what you're describing as a possibility here, I can see how it could be interpreted that way. But it wasn't even a strong enough interpretation from what I saw that it even occurred to me that that's what he meant. So it just seems like he's trumpeting something that they didn't necessarily deserve to trumpet. I don't think that they told the story well enough for that.
All I know is that the visual of a bunch of super prego plant ladies with tentacles attached to them was really disturbing.
Yeah.
That was creepy.
And the whole plan, like, I'm setting my people free by forcibly impregnating them all.
Yeah.
What do you think free means?
Yeah, exactly. I think you're confused, Knives. You picked up some stuff.
Knives manages to kill the memory of Rem, thus getting full control of Vash, who turns into like a husk. And then the portal opens, and Knives goes in, and he touches the ball. But then Meryl's there on the other side of the observation glass, and also giant roots are now spreading through the whole city from Vash. They're taking the form of Rem around the tower
Looks
they're
like
in.
Rem, yeah.
Yeah, almost like that's how he's externalizing his need to memorize her, so that she existed somewhere. But Meryl calling out to him works. It allows him to.
Why is Meryl so important that she's able to make him remember when Rem?
Can't explain that without. I need the original source material. Not source material. It's just the original anime to explain it. That's the only way I can.
Okay.
Wait. So what's your question though?
My question is why Meryl's able to bring him out of this. If he has no memories of anybody, why would the memory of Meryl be so strong just because she's yelling that it actually wakes him up? He shouldn't know who she is. It should just be noise on the other side of the cylinder.
He feels it in his heart, man. This is emotional.
He has hardly known her for any time at all. And if the guy successfully erased Rem's memory, which was like the most important central thing to Vash, if he successfully excised that, what did he do with Meryl's like 10 minutes of memory?
Vash does say so he doesn't remember Meryl at this moment. He remembers Rem from this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the only thing I have is in the original Trigun, Meryl to him is like, she's not the reincarnation, but her spirit is like the match of Rem, right? She's the second coming of Rem in his mind.
So that might be what they're alluding to with this.
Meryl calling out was close enough to Rem for him to remember Rem and then has something to grab back onto.
Yeah. They must have similar voices. Because that's the only thing I'm seeing that's similar. Okay.
Even though, so in original Trigun, we know Meryl and Vash have feelings for each other. And in fact, he reminds her of his mom. That's probably not a good sign.
Drink.
Vash comes to and pulls also Knives gets rejected, but it's not clear if the core rejects him or if it's Vash rejecting him.
I thought it was Vash. Because the core didn't really play into anything.
He was already attacking the core, and then he doesn't get rejected until Vash comes to his senses and starts pulling him out.
Okay. So when Vash pulls out this cube, this cube is the energy of the core now crystallized into physical form? It's the portal physical form?
It was all that energy that he had to use to create not only all the roots, but also the portal. He was able to capture all that energy, and instead of it exploding, he was able to crystallize it.
All right, so Vash's coat turns purple, but his hair turns correct.
Finally.
And then we get a really... okay, to be honest, and yeah, drink. I'm going to say it now. I really like this gun battle and the ties it has to original Trigun. Yes. What it did, I was like, thank you. These are all the callbacks I was waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
This battle, as they fall down, is just beautiful.
Right. So they both end up growing wings and flying around.
A wing each.
One winged angels. They're flying around, battling each other. Vash is sometimes hand reloading, but he also has speed reloaders sometimes he can switch to.
Yep.
Maybe he's got more bullets than speed reloaders.
Maybe.
And then he stuffs the cube into his gun. Oh wait, no, it's at the end.
Give it a minute. Give it a minute. We got to build up the moment. Jeez.
I did love the fast reloader in the air, and then he swings his gun into it. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Definitely.
The residents of July who have been attacking the giant REM plant are now angry at Vash and yelling at him and shooting at him. And then Knives, he's telling them, like, get out of here. And Knives comes down and just murders them all.
Like Elfenlied style. Just
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So then, yeah, Vash takes the energy cube and he shoves it into his gun. And then his arm turns into the angel arm.
Mm-hmm.
And he has all the energy from the cube and he needs to fire it. So he flies up into the air so he can shoot it into space like one does.
like obviously.
And his brother flies up with him and they have this big fight argument about humans and they're always going to hate you. And Vash is like, that's fine. I'll just run away. He's like, that's a stupid answer. And then Vash fires the energy into space and Knives chooses to go directly through the beam to try to reach the cube and catches on fire. He gets his hands on it, but then he burns up into...
Now, I'll have you
skeleton.
know that his skin, muscles, and tissue burns away before his hair does. He
What?
is a skeleton with hair before the hair burns away.
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with this.
You it's so dumb. It's pretty, but it's dumb.
That's pretty kind of even... never even occurred to me, Jeremy. Not even for a
It
second.
bugged the heck out of me. I'm
Not
like, oh,
one
his skin
second.
is gone. His muscles are disappearing. Why is his hair still there?
Oh gosh.
All right, so... But then Vash falls down into the city and what's left of the residue of the energy explodes and destroys the city.
Must
So-
not have been enough to hurt Vash. Or maybe Knives is coming back.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I had the thought, like, again, if you die over here, are you still existing in the other dimension, and then you could just reappear somehow.
That is a good
Uh-huh.
question.
Anyway, 2 years pass.
I want to make one comment about that
Uh-oh.
fight.
Here we go.
Nope, I'm saving it for next week. Never mind.
Nicely done.
That's how you build dramatic tension.
That's right.
Get those listeners back in here, Jeremy. Good job. Just
Really
like
good
we
man.
planned. Right. 2 years pass. We see Meryl stopping at July to put stuff at a memorial. We see pictures of Vash. We see pictures of Wolfwood. Oh, Wolfwood saved Meryl. I forgot to say that. Wolfwood
Oh, yeah.
ran back into the city. He was miles away in minutes and then was miles back. He grabbed her
Mhm.
and then was miles away for the explosion. Man can move.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, the distances in this anime are really confusing because they show us a map repeatedly, and they even showed us with the sand crawler, like, where they were gonna go, and it looked like we were looking at continents.
Right.
But then, and it even said, like, this is the Great Sand Sea is what they were going through, and you know, you call it a sea if it is big enough to be a sea, right? Otherwise, it'd be the Great Sand Lake, right? But it's not. It's the sea.
Okay?
So when the sandcrawler got derailed halfway through,
Almost done.
Close.
they got on birds, they got on chocobos, and they ran the rest of the way. If you could go halfway on chocobos, what did you need the sandcrawler for?
Don't worry, Troy. It's almost
What are
over.
these distances? These distances are clearly nothing. It's all a lie.
It's all
2
a lie.
years have passed, and Meryl, she gets a call from her work that says, hey, if you keep going off an assignment, you're going to get busted down to insurance agency.
Man,
And
that'd be weird.
you need to go meet your new partner, Millie Thompson. Put some respect on her name. The guy's like, Tom. I'm like, come on, we all know. We all figured it out as soon as Roberto died.
Just stop it.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and then also, her hair is now correct, and her attitude is a little more correct.
Mm-hmm.
Drink.
Drink.
And then we see a man named Eric's who was playing a piano. If you've seen Trigun, you know this is actually just Vash with his memory gone.
Mm-hmm.
He has long hair. I was, you know, after they showed Meryl, and I'm like, oh, so now we got to the Meryl that from the other anime. Cool. And then like, okay, now show me Vash, because his hair went up and his coat got destroyed, so maybe he had to buy a new one. And we went to Eric's. I'm like, so close. No.
And a miss.
Come on, man.
Last one. Little teaser for next week. All right. Any thoughts on the 2-year? Oh, and then there's also Zazie the Beast warning about, hey, humans are coming back, and then there's a radio transmission. We hear Earthlings are like, we found the seeds. Let's go get them. Which is manga only story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There's some interesting stuff coming if they go this route. Mm-hmm.
All right, now, any last thoughts on this epilogue piece, this 2-year after?
I didn't mind it, but honestly, the main value is and how it connects to the original.
Right.
Yep.
Which is why it's one of my favorite moments.
Yep.
All right, Jason, any thoughts?
No, I don't.
Cool.
But next week I do.
Let's go to scoring. Jason, this is your pick. What are you gonna give it?
I really enjoyed myself. I like the characters. The art is beautiful. Sound design was nice. I'm gonna give this a 4.
All right, Jeremy, you're up.
Yeah, this one hurt. I had a really hard time with this one. As a standalone anime though, I'm only gonna rate it as a standalone anime. I'm gonna
That's the point.
X size. Yeah. It's really hard. It's really hard though, because you know, in the first episode for our podcast, we talked about what our favorite animes were. Trigun is my favorite anime. And even though in the recent watching of it, I did knock it down from a 5 to a 4 for the first half, it still is like...
I saw that when I watched it. I was like, how dare you?
I know, right? It's still like, I cherish that anime. It's so well done. And so when something bears the name, it's really hard to like pull yourself away from that. But as a standalone anime, as best as I can, I've got to give it a 2.
Ooh.
Yeah, it has some interesting ideas, but it's got really poor execution. It has a lot of beats that just don't seem to work well, or they're not explained. The morality that they're clearly trying to present as the central like point of argument between the characters, it just, to me, didn't have enough weight behind it, and it was not fleshed out. And because they have to throw in some cameos to the original, I think that there's some lost time that this anime could have benefited from if it didn't have to worry about characters like Legato. If it didn't have to find ways to incorporate characters that it maybe would have been better without. So yeah, I got to give it a 2. I think that the anime had more potential if it separated itself from Trigun and just told its own story. I think it could have done better.
I'm gonna go with a 3. I feel like the anime is serviceable, entertaining, has some great ideas, maybe a little simple. It also didn't feel like a lot happened, which is weird because it did. There's about 4 or 5 story group plots in here, but and like Jeremy, I am having a really hard time separating it, to the point where I was literally telling myself, this is the son of Vash. That's why he's so different. It's okay. The son of Vash. But that also did help, that little mental exercise, and I was like, okay, well then he's not that bad of a character. And I have kind of held on to that through it. So It's a 3. I think it's perfectly serviceable, and it's gorgeous as all get out. And I will happily watch a Studio Orange anime just to see what visuals they can render out of their computers. So if you're looking for someone on the anti-CG bandwagon, it ain't me, and I'm cool with it. Tell a good story and make it pretty, and I'm happy.
Nice.
Well, they
So
got
I'm
one of those.
Kind of happy. All right. Our next anime is Bocchi the Rock. We'll be talking about that in 2 weeks. But next week, again, we are going to be doing a full-on comparison. You can quit drinking. No holds barred. Debating the 2 Triguns. That is our mini-sode next week. If you have thoughts on either of those things, you're welcome to throw them out now. You can reach us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast. You can come to our website and contact us through the Contact Us page. The website is theanimebakaclub.com. Or you can contact us wherever you found the podcast. It just kind of gets everywhere. So we're like plants trying to have plant babies. Just gets everywhere.
Wow.
Contact us if you're able to. I need to go. Let's say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
I think everyone drank too much. Sayonara.